spent most of my secondary school experience not being diagnosed with autism. I didn't know about it until like year 11-ish, so right at the tail end. But it was not good. I always felt like, oh, I'm different. I don't really fit in here. I do not know why. And it would take me until year 11 to figure out, oh, that's why.
First of all, late diagnosis can be problematic because there are few systems in place. That child could already be attaining standards that are quite low, which makes catch up really that much more difficult. It was something we didn't consider. That language just wasn't there. And when we're talking about special needs at that time, we're talking really about extreme levels of children underachieving, children with significant behaviour problems, or children who were seriously disabled. And on the whole, those children were then isolated in special schools. So those children that you had in mainstream who had, say, moderate learning difficulties or problems not achieving on a par with the rest of the pupils, I think they were just, you taught them, you included those children, but if they didn't succeed, no one really asked you the sort of questions you do now.
Honestly, it doesn't really feel like I had the proper support that someone would need. I mean, you had the TAs who would try their best, but that was the kind of general, hey, okay, we'll help you out with a maths question, and not like, okay, I can see you're struggling here, and well, here's a way we can make this a bit different for you so you can understand it or feel comfortable. It's just kind of the whole, well, everyone gets the same. I didn't really cope, I just kind of suffered through it for 5 years. It was just a whole lot of, I don't know why I feel like I'm such an outsider, and no one has the answer yet, and would for a very long time. And so I just spent every day of secondary school just having tons of anxiety, just feeling like, okay, I don't belong here. You know, try to get through the day as quick as I can and then go home and then cry or something like that. I am genuinely happy with what I got. I passed my GCSEs, I'm happy with that. Didn't really learn English. But I've always thought, and so have my parents thought, like, if I actually had the support there in place, if I had people there who knew like how I was as a person, how I see things, how I take things in, having someone there, I probably would have been able to do so much better without completely destroying my mental health and going into just like episodes, because there was genuinely days where I'd go home and I just could not stop laughing because I was so overwhelmed with emotion that my body just went into a bit of a shutdown, and I was sitting on the floor laughing. I didn't know what was funny, I didn't know why I was laughing, but I think I was just so overwhelmed from everything happening and all these expectations and all the pressure, both from like what the school would put on me and myself, that my body just went.
What education highlighted was that we're a whole group of children who were really not achieving. And it was at that stage when you had that perspective on this is the input, this is the curriculum, this is what we're expecting, but this particular group of children are not achieving, that you had then suddenly that developing world of special educational needs, where questions needed to be asked about why a particular group of children were not achieving on a par with others in their year group. And at that point, you develop that understanding of individual needs of pupils. So you develop things like a special needs program. So the aim was then to actually enable those children to achieve.
They did talk about autism awareness before, although there can be some more explanation to autism within teachers. I would socialise when I need to, or if it was related to the topic that we're doing in college. But most of the time, I would keep to myself, which is beneficial for me. I do like being on my own and doing what I like to do. And the same went for uni as well. I would talk to people, as there are people who've had to share the same interests that I do, and it was good to talk to them about that. Particularly my third year of university, where I got to socialise with people more, and I learned about how socialisation was important. I had the support of classmates and teachers and teaching assistants, and I was very thankful for them. And if there was anything that was difficult or anything that I needed to talk to someone about, I had them to talk to, so it was pretty manageable. And trying to get work completed in a certain time frame, that could also be challenging at times, because at the time I was a pretty slow learner. I still find myself to be a slow learner at times, but that's what the teacher assistants were here for, so I was able to get around to learning eventually.
I genuinely believe it's like, it needs to be a thing, and it's a big thing that needs to happen, but the actual solutions aren't these massive, out of this world, super complicated, expensive things. It's just like understanding who the student is, what their differences are, what they struggle with, and then finding like, okay, we can make the text bigger, or put a bigger picture, or have someone there who's a bit more familiar to explain things again. Lots of simple things that can make a massive difference to a person, instead of just explaining it the same way to everyone and expecting everyone to understand it. It doesn't work with anyone, whether they have a special educational need or not. Everybody deserves a chance to succeed, whether they're neurotypical, neurodiverse, or have some kind of difference. And why should people like us struggle so much more than just your average neurotypical person? Because we're different or have different needs, and no one's bothering to try and learn about it and understand it and do something about it.
To be frank, I think from my experience, I think school has done a decent amount already, although there are people that don't understand their autism and they would want a better understanding of what makes them autistic or neurodivergent.